Welcome to today's virtual summit, 4 Pillars of Entrepreneurship. It's a holistic approach to entrepreneurship in the areas of health, wealth, personal growth, and business development. And today I have Ausin Haines as my guest. And Ausin is a best-selling author, professional speaker, and life and business clarity coach. But it wasn't always this way. Ausin battled with low self-esteem and depression that had him thinking his life was over. This is why Ausin has dedicated his life to helping you create change and overcome obstacles. Ausin's upcoming book, Flashpoint, The Art and Science of Your Big Breakthrough, is sure to inspire you. Welcome, Ausin. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I love this virtual summit, the idea and the value that you're bringing with over 30 years of entrepreneurial experience yourself. It's such a great thing that you're able to put this platform together to serve entrepreneurs on their journey. So thank you. It's an honor to be here with you today. And I am very eager to deliver and really give some value to your audience.
Yes, thank you. And I know you're helping lots of the startup entrepreneurs, or they're still in the side hustle and kind of stepping their one foot in to wanting to be an entrepreneur. Can you tell us more about how you help them in their journey?
Yeah, so as an entrepreneur, and I have a long history in sales management. I spent 20 years in that space working with all different sectors of business. Independent business owners, mom and pops, C-levels, major corporations. I've really had the opportunity to spend a lot of time during that 20 years and really learning what it takes to make a business succeed. And at the same time, I was on my own entrepreneurial journey, learning and just, and you heard a little bit about my story. I took the long road because Tony Robbins says that when you get into this space, 80% of it is psychology and 20% of it is strategy. But I feel like a lot of people spend 80% of their time on strategy and only 20% of their time on psychology. We think we got it. But it's the psychological shifts that we make, the minor shifts, that lead to macro change, macro results down the road. And so what I've done is, this book is not a traditional book, and I love the holistic approach. It's more about creating an environment for your side hustle, your startup, to get that breakthrough that validates it will be a long-term sustainable enterprise. And I want it to be your passion. And I go into the book because a lot of times people get into business and it may not be their sweet spot. They're doing it to make money. It sounds like a good idea, but they haven't really done the work. So what I do is we look at the work. There's a recipe, if you will, that creates the environment. And part of it is assessment. We really go into assessment. So this is a pretty deep and wide topic, and I'm glad we had an opportunity to just touch on it, and I know we'll go into it deeper here.
Mm-hmm. So it's like creating like a blueprint. Would you say it's a blueprint, or like
I would say it's similar to a blueprint, but I know today's world, we want step-by-step process, mm-hmm. and there's a place for that. And this is called the art and science because art doesn't follow any logical steps most of the time. It comes to us in the middle of the night. It's unexpected. And sometimes it's completely random, like what turns into art. So there's the art and the science of it. So although there's a you could call it a blueprint, but I actually have a Venn diagram that I created to give folks a visual, because I'm like a visual person. I like to see it. So I have a Venn diagram that really pulls together the essence of it. But it's not like set your goals. Like there's 1,000 goal setting programs out there. This is more of a holistic, grassroots, I don't have to learn everything kind of approach. But if I do these steps in this book, I'm going to create the environment. I'm not here to guarantee somebody I'm not here to guarantee your success, right? Of what you think your success is right now. But what I will guarantee is a big breakthrough in your side hustle or your startup. And I say that because it may not be what you think it is today. And that's a key distinction.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, like to me, myself, it's it's a long journey. Like it's been 30 years. But I just wonder when you use the term environment, whether the same as what I perceived as the community.
Yes.
Because I started out probably 96 with totally my own business and my own products and service. What I find was I took the long road was because I did not have a community of support surrounding me. I was doing it on my own, and I was in a new community that I had just moved into and trying to establish a business, but without knowing everything, not even just like people living there. I don't even know people that's in business. So it's like all the way alone. So it took me a whole year. That's why when I asked you about what you referred to as environment, was it the same as what I meant by about building a community, building the relationship with the people around you that can support you? Is that correct? Or?
Yes, that's it. I'm glad you brought that up. So I could give you right now this one thing to the audience will help them get to their result. And you just hit it. So the idea is that psychologically, we are taught to have all the answers. We got to know the answers. We got to know them all the time. And to the degree we don't get involved and we don't get the support that we need. So one of the major pillars of Flashpoint is not just community. It's not just networking, because 80% of the business world does that on a more unconscious level. But more specifically, in a structured way, over a period of time, with the right group of people or the right person that's moving toward a desired outcome, whether it's a unified outcome or it's parallel outcomes. That in alone right there, if you didn't learn anything else, but you made a conscious, as an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs, we can be rebels, solopreneurs, blazing our own trail, pioneering. Nobody understands us but us. And this is why the key is, again, in a conscious way over a period of time, in a structured way over a period of time with the right people. Conscious, intentional, on purpose.
Yeah, like to me, it's the right connection to open doors. That's how I perceive it, because that's the obstacles I faced a lot. It's about getting the right people to open the door for you, because sometimes you just knocking at the wrong door, facing like the wrong people, that is not going to be able to help you in that way.
That's quite possible. That's absolutely possible. There's a quote that says, "One day of favor is worth 1,000 days of labor."
Mm.
One day of favor is worth 1,000 days of labor. And what you just said is so true. But again, herein lies the art. That connection may not come from that networking group that you're in or that structured way. Mm-hmm. But the sheer being in that space is a part of creating the environment. Now, granted, it's a people proximity is what I call it, people proximity, because you're getting yourself in an environment in a structured way over a period of time with the right people. Absolutely, it can come from that. The chances are very high, but it also may come from another avenue, and that's the part we need to be open to. We need to honor and recognize that everything that comes is everything that comes into our orbit is a connecting point. Mm-hmm. And it's not that we have to go down every connecting point, but we ask questions. Because I know for me, I would resist things right away if I would judge them and resist them instead of asking another question. Mm-hmm. What did you mean by that? What do you do? Keep going deeper. And I do this. I do it. I make it a part of my life. In every interaction, I mingle. I have conversations. I believe a conversation can lead to transformation, just like we're having here today.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like I think what you meant is like people with more open mind. So instead of cut off that conversation when you say no and I don't want to listen and the conversation over. Instead of just asking, why should I listen to you? Like, why, like.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll give you an example. You have a business, whatever your business is, you meet somebody and on the surface, you have nothing, like their business and your business have no, like they have no connecting point. They just don't even belong together. But why not engage in a conversation, go deeper? Because you might uncover things that will surprise you. And I found that that's where the magic happens, if you will, when you engage in a conversation like that and you're willing to go down that road. It's just extremely interesting what can happen. And
yes.
I'm seeking for an example right now, but I'll find one here eventually.
I do have example.
Great. Wonderful.
Yes, because I network a lot, so I meet lots of people, but lots of time they're only interested in talking about what they're doing now, right? So I always ask them for their LinkedIn. For professionals, they always like have that LinkedIn profile that have their past. What were their experience before, right? Say someone I met, I didn't know they have other than just existing job. They say they're in healthcare or whatever, right? Like I might not have much in common with them, but then I noticed that they have done certain other work before and I can connect, right? So like even me, like I graduated from university in computer science. So I only actually really worked for about 4 or 5 years in the corporate world as an employee, actually really doing the programming and do everything, right? But lots of people don't know my past, right? So they didn't know. I was a system consultant, but they didn't know. They only know is like I'm doing networking, I'm doing this like current business that I'm in. So there are many connection points. That's why I always like to go deeper. Like I meet people at networking meeting, but then I would find out more about them, like
yes,
their profile, because there are talking points. And then also it's their connection. They might not be your direct client or someone that can connect with you in the business, but they know other people. Yes. So don't discard them, because people always find, yes, time is precious, but that one reason that out of all those people in the group that you have connected this person somehow, why not go further and find out more.
Yes, and that's a great lead in. So I can share with you my personal story and a flashpoint that turned my life around. Mm-hmm. Puts me in a position to be here talking to you right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I started literally selling copiers. That was where I got started. Mm-hmm. I tell people I have a PhD. I was poor, hungry, and driven. And I got hired and barely got hired because I didn't have a college degree. And I like to tell people, and they typically would hire people with college degrees. And I like to tell people, they were closing the door and I kind of stuck my foot in just as they were closing. And I said, hold on, give me a shot, And so I got my opportunity, but then I found myself in the first year and a half, I was really struggling because, as I mentioned, I battled with self-worth. I really did. It was this push and pull. The potential was there, but I was so riddled in what was wrong and what was wrong with me and my childhood and the failures and all the things, because I had a little bit of a rough start, that there was a residual effect to that. Mm-hmm. And then about maybe like a year and a half in, I got written up. And basically what that means is that if you don't perform, we're gonna move toward like letting you go, fire you. Mm-hmm. And that was a moment. That was adversity. And now it's really pushing up against my self-worth because it's validating these feelings of inferiority. Mm-hmm. But there was something there, and I made up some key things. This is part of where Flashpoint got developed. And I made up I started to do some things differently. And then shortly after that, because I used to walk in offices, I would just literally cold call people. I would just walk in businesses, and some people would throw you out. Some people were mean. And occasionally you'd have some people that would say, sure, yeah, come on in. So I happened to be walking in. I walked in an office one day, and it was a small office. It was, wasn't a big opportunity, but I got a guy's name, and I found out he was a certified public accountant, and I called on him, and he didn't take my call at first, but I was persistent, and I got a hold of him. I finally reached him, and then I found out that he managed like 5 or 6 offices. So here I am struggling, potentially going to lose my job. I made some adjustments. I get through to this guy, Flashpoint. I end up doing business with like 4 or 5 of the offices. And then from that point forward, I became one of the top salespeople in the company in my category. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up getting promoted. I became a manager. Mm-hmm. And I had a very successful run in a very difficult industry. Mm-hmm. But had I not been willing to do the internal work, the self-assessment, the psychological part, like I said, that makes up 80% of it, and you have to be, and as an entrepreneur, there's a courage there. Entrepreneurs are courageous individuals because we need to be consistently looking at our shortcomings, because that's where we need to find our growth. But my story was, if I looked at my shortcomings, it validated my inferiority, and it was very painful. But once I crossed that threshold, and everything opened up for me. And
right.
That puts me in front of you right now. And this is another part of my journey, because I literally just resigned from my corporate position last July. Mm-hmm. It's very exciting to be here.
Good. So that's why you now want to, through your own personal experience, to help others who are also in similar situation, like can't decide whether to get into full-time being an entrepreneur, and even it's not a problem being it's just a side hustle until you have, actually the psychology part is so big in that because they would never leave that side hustle because they have that security blanket with that paycheck every month.
Right. You mean they would never leave their full-time?
No, unless the psychology change. Yes.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do really with the strategy, whether they have the best strategy to start a company. If their mind saying, no, I still need that security blanket, they will never step out of it.
Yes. And that's what Flashpoint's for. I don't, there's a statistic, 49% of people under the age of 35 have a side hustle. That was in Forbes magazine in June of last year. And then about 60% of people starting businesses today are between the ages of 40 and 60. The entrepreneurial bug, the people starting businesses, the side hustles, the startups, in my opinion, will continue to rise in all age groups.
Yes, because I think it's the trend of how the corporation works, right? They don't necessarily need that many full-time employee with all the benefits and also the office space, because of the technology. They can use it.
The resources.
The resources, yes. Because I actually, myself, I think it's in me that I just can't sit still for a 9-to-5 job. I did it for 5 years, and because I work for a large corporation, but what I find the restriction with the full-time as a full-time employee is not being able to experience other projects that outside of your little department, right? But because I was in technology, it would be dead. Like if I just sit in that same department and hoping that there will be a project that is to do all these like with the new technologies, right? So what I find myself, I like within 5 years, I became independent system consultant, so I can move around. Even within the same financial institution, I was able to move around to work on different projects. And then because you explore new technologies for the bank, and then another bank would love you. They want the latest thing. So that's what suited me. But it is the mindset, and also like whether see if people are comfortable with where they are, which lots of people do, and they just stay in the status quo unless something in the environment really hit them and push them to make the decision to leave a job or what, that reason. But I think to just step out, it's difficult. That's why that psychological change needed to have that breakthrough.
Well, that's a great point. And this is not to, there's some people that are just sorted to be, There's some people that corporate, that works for them. This isn't about saying anything derogatory about corporations are great. I mean, they provide a great structure and they are great. And this is another point you hit on. This is why I'm going to hit on this, is that you may be somebody that doesn't have a side hustle yet, and you're aspiring. So some of the most successful people I know, one of them has a corporate thing and is an incredible side hustler. And so there's a place for this, because that corporate, if you've been doing your corporate job for a while, chances are you have it down. You have income coming in.
Yes.
It's a great way to you got that money coming in to start that side hustle. And there is a period where maybe you run both side by side. And for me, that's what happened. And then there was a point where it was time for me to make that decision.
Yes.
Everything has its place.
Yes.
And what I want to bring to the world with Flashpoint is, number one, just a more conscious awareness that a breakthrough can happen in your business and your side hustle. because there was a time when Albert Einstein put the final touch on E equals MC squared. There was a final moment when Alexander Graham Bell, his voice transferred over the line, and it was heard by the person on the other side. Matter of fact, that was today, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but today, March 10th, was in 1876. Today was the day that Alexander Graham Bell first transmitted his voice through a telephone line. So there's a moment when that happens, right? So there's breakthroughs along the way, but there's a moment when the connection happens. There's a moment, let me do that again, when there's a flashpoint.
Yeah. Great. It's good. So tell us more about how did you come up with the idea of having now your Flashpoint, having the TV show and the podcast and coming book? Tell us. This
is a great question. I love this. Is perfect. Flashpoint started for me. Flashpoint was my entrepreneurial journey. And my mentor, James McNeil, he said to me, the world needs that. I was doing it for me as a way for people to kind of watch my journey. But then once I started to really think about it and develop it, it made sense. And once I shared it with people, they would instantly use the terminology. Flashpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Instantly. And that's when I knew that I needed to develop this into something more and to bring it to the world so that there's a consciousness around the side hustler getting to that validation point where they know they're going to make it. They know their business is going to make it. It's going to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So like, what about for yourself? What do you see as your next flashpoint as your business grow, right? Like, so your flashpoint was how you transition, right? Like to start the business, and then where do you see or hoping the next breakthrough will be?
Right now, I have multiple projects working, and this is the thing about Flashpoint. And I talk about this in the book. It's a balance between intentionality and openness or flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
We're intentional in our approach. We set goals.
Mm-hmm.
We know our outcome, whilst being open to the shifts, the subtle redirects. My gift is to be able to inspire and move people by my story, the life I live that translates into the words that I say.
Mm-hmm.
Dispelling that to the world, Flashpoint is one of those vehicles to do that. And Flashpoint has a duality to it. I don't want to get too far into the book, but there's a duality to Flashpoint. So where is a Flashpoint? When is it? How do you know? In most cases, you may not know it in the moment. Now, in the case of Alexander Graham Bell, you know it in the moment. But here's the thing. Here's the duality or the paradox, if you will. There's a moment, and the definition of Flashpoint is that when someone or something bursts into activity or being. There's a moment when Alexander Graham Bell, since today's the day that the telephone was born, there's a moment when he said, it's possible. He had a moment. he believed he had an idea, a flash, that came to him. Then he burst into activity. Right?
Yeah. Like, would you say it's an insight? Like,
an insight.
That it just come.
Now, here's the thing. In this story, people thought he was crazy. They wanted to put him into a mental institution. His investors were telling him to stop that side project because they wanted to develop cutting-edge telegraph technology where the telegraph transmission could carry multiple messages. So enormous amounts of pressure from the world saying no, and this is where it translates to the entrepreneur. And that's why the psychology is so important and your purpose is so important, because they are obstacles that need to be overcome in order for you to persist and believe when no one else does.
Yes, that's very good.
If you can go back to 1876 and we could magically measure the consciousness at that time, transmitting your voice and have it show up 2 miles away was, it probably, religious people thought it was evil, probably. They thought he was doing something evil. So you can imagine the incredible obstacles that were involved. Now, here's the other thing. He was a few hours away. As soon as he went to put the patent in, before he even had the success, he went to register the patent. Within 3 hours, someone else showed up right after him to register for their patent. But he got there ahead of him. The second thing is he had 600 lawsuits to protect his idea. So this is where, again, I'm getting into the entrepreneurship. But when you bring an idea to the world, right, there's an incredible amount of obstacles. So there's the flashpoint of the idea that bursts you into activity. And then there's the validation. So if you think of it this way, flashpoint is a duality in that you have a flashpoint moment. It's for you. And then the world has a flashpoint moment when they recognize what you've accomplished. And I'll give you another example. Albert Einstein developed the theory of E equals MC squared. But it wasn't until 4 years later that the world fully recognized it. So can you imagine, you just unlocked the keys to the universe and you're sitting and waiting, because that was a side hustle, by the way, because Albert Einstein was a patent clerk. So you just uncovered the keys to the universe as your side hustle, and then you have to wait 4 years before the world recognizes it. So this is why this is so important, this concept of flashpoint, because it's not like I'm sharing things that people don't know. I'm just bringing it to them in a way that makes it very real, and it makes it, it draws light and consciousness onto that there's a breakthrough for you. But you got to be very intentional, and you got to be very open, and you need to work on your psychology.
Yes.
Because there's going to be obstacles that are going to come from places that you never even thought existed.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good point. Like I like the word that you had, like through your talking about the balance between intention and the open mind, like to receive like the shift, right? Sometimes it's just like the action and the like it's just like a tension between the two. When you talk about even duality, it's that conflict and how an entrepreneurs can see that, because the world might not see in that view as yours, right? Do you compromise, or you just, because you have that passion
Yes.
That's what that psychology thing, right?
Yes.
Your passion, what you love and what you see is what keeps you going, your purpose. You find the purpose while the people around you didn't understand. That's why for me, it's just so important to find that community of support, because I just know, like, without that, if I'm surrounded by people that don't believe in what I do, I will eventually stop, right? Because you just get so much influence, because everything that you do, that someone is behind your back, da, 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 right? Instead of motivating you, that thinking it is possible. You being around with people that think it's possible versus those that keep saying can't, oh no.
It's so true.
Yes, that's why I just think when you first saying about an environment, that's what even I have done entrepreneurship for so many years. I still look for community, because as I grow at different stage of my business, I would be need different type of people, just because what the type of business I'm going into, or what the new things that I have idea that I want to pursue, it might not be the same community of people that had support you before, because their belief may not be the same as where you're going to now, right?
Yes.
So meet the right people to get on the bus if you need to.
Yes, and I'd like to make a distinction, and I know we're up against the clock here.
Yes.
There's a thing with the community that, and this doesn't mean you always have people that are just going to agree with everything that you're saying, like that. Oh, you're the greatest thing ever. Oh, that's wonderful. We certainly need support, encouragement, because like I just said, there's an incredible amount of obstacles that are coming our way. If they're not at your door yet, they're coming. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, we do need people in our life that are willing to give us feedback, that we can accept, that almost see it the opposite as us, and we can be courageous enough to step into that space and accept that feedback. And what I found is that whenever I do that, I may not agree with the person, but the fact that they brought something to the table, and I may not agree with what they said, but it caused me to shift my perspective and do something that made it better.
Cautious, yes.
And I think that it's so important to have those types of people in our space, and the ones that really get us and understand, encourage us, and like a mentor, we hold those people close, and we really, I encourage every entrepreneur to get involved in a community of people. Absolutely. I mean, it's like the pillar of life. It's in the theme of the book, and I'm not the only person to write about it, but it's just something that it changes lives. It lifts up societies. It creates miracles when you just have a community that are moving in a positive direction.
Good. Yeah, I like the part about having an open mind, listen to others' opinion, even they might not be thinking the same as what you do. So in concluding today's interview, I know you have a gift, a free gift for our audience. Can you just tell us about what it is?
Sure. I think, we talked about this before, and I have the book coming out, and I'm giving people an opportunity to get the free book. But I want to step kind of the prelude to that. And I talked about it here as the psychology. And one of the things that I want to offer is that I've developed a little exercise. It's a questionnaire, if you will. It's the 9 questions to identify and remove limiting beliefs. Because it's important. One of the things that's really important is assessment. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what entrepreneur, what level you're at, mm-hmm. There's known and unknown obstacles right now. Yes. For all of us, for me, for you, Annie, there's known and unknown obstacles. And our ability to assess, to pause and assess, grab a distinction, could change everything down the road. And so this questionnaire is not you need a major overhaul. It's that you need a minor shift. And going through this document, mm-hmm. you might just get that minor shift that you go, my goodness, that's what it was. I'm stuck here, or like me, the distinction of the self-worth, and like I shared in my story.
So it's like a self-assessment. We just answer those.
Yeah, it's a little questionnaire, 9 questions. It'll stimulate some things, maybe help you figure out what's holding you back, so you can boldly move forward on your entrepreneurial journey.
Okay, that's good. So thank you for your time today, Ausin, and tell us what your website is. What's the address?
Right now, you can go to Austin's 360. It's the easiest way.
Okay.
All my information's there. It's AUSTINS360.com. Mm-hmm. I'm a speaker as well, so you'll see a nice little highlight reel I did. I'm looking for speaking engagements right now. Yes. And there's some other information there too. The free gift is there as well. There's a link there to get right to the free gift.
Okay.
And it just makes it easy.
Okay. Yes. So thank you. And
thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor to spend some time and discuss these valuable topics.
Yes. I hope the entrepreneurs will get in touch with you.